She has a bit of time in the morning when she wakes up and she doesn't want them on. She's quite happy to wait half an hour while she gets dressed, and when she sits down to have her breakfast, I check them, so I put the connector on and listen through to check the microphones work okay, and then she's very happy to put them on.
So in the mornings we go into Ted's room, and now the first thing he'll do is say and he'll want his processor put on. So the batteries are charged every night, so we collect the batteries from the charger, collect the Neptune processor from the dry box overnight. Ted's now quite interested in working out how the battery goes in to the processor. So we put the batteries in the two processors, and the wires in, headpieces on. He wears them on a belt around his waist, so they go on the belt goes on, the coils go on his head, and we use the little clips on the back of his shirt to so if they fall off, they are easy for him to get back on.
He quite enjoys sort of sitting there and looking at them, and he'll try and switch them on and off himself. And so we sit on the bed and we'll go through and we'll test the microphones, so we'll plug all the headphones and put the test pack on, and we'll do all of the ling sounds into the microphones, which is what we've always done with his hearing aids as well as implants, so it's just something we're carrying on, which is already part of our routine. He'll quite happily then put them on in the morning, and apart from when we're getting him dressed or something, he'll pretty much keep them on all day unless he gets frustrated, which I think a lot of them do, and then they'll just knock them off.
The equipment, I mean, she's very happy to have it on. There were times when she didn't always want it on, and I had to bribe her in ways to make sure that she did put them on. And also, sort of around 2, there were a lot of tantrums, and so the cables would get pulled quite a lot, and she was pulling off her ears in defiance at something, and that was when the cables would often break. So we had to get them replaced quite often. That was quite straightforward. We just call up the implant centre and they would send out some that would get to us the next day usually. And we always had a spare, so there were never any times when she wasn't without them.
So each evening before Ted goes to bed, we check that all the pieces are working. So we listen to the microphone, listen to the wires, make sure they're not crackling, and that they're all working, and there's no dirt got into the microphone to block it up at all. And then put them in the dry box in case of any moisture has gotten into them in the day. Ted's got quite good at telling us if one of them is not sounding quite right. He just usually pats his head and says, "Uh-oh," if he thinks one of them isn't working too well. Yeah, sometimes there's been an issue with one of them maybe not being on. The wires do fail, if they sound quite crackly when they're coming to the end of their life, because they're reaching from his waist up to his head and they're moving around quite a lot because he's very, very active. They sound like a loose connection, I think, to him, so all the sounds are a bit intermittent. So we have to request spares from the implant centre maybe every between 4 to 6 weeks. He'll need a new wire, and I tend to go online and put an order in, put a request in for a new set of wires, and they'll come within maybe the next day or 2 days.